In the previous episode, we examined Sauron's northern campaigns and the foundations of his assault on Gondor. Though the plan had long been prepared, unfolding events forced a rushed attack, a key point for what comes next. The central idea we will explore today is this. Sauron's assault on Minas Tirith failed in part because it was conceived as an open-field battle rather than a proper siege, which had originally been planned as the second phase of his operations, but now had to be executed first. This brings us back to the events that triggered the rushed assault. A division of Uruk-hai, led by Ugluk, was escorting Merry and Pippin as prisoners. While crossing the plains of Rohan, they were joined by orcs from Mordor under Grishnak. Facing the threat of Rohirrim patrols, the two forces combined, along with orcs from Moria. Grishnak, however, sent a message east of the Anduin, and the command in Mordor quickly learned that the hobbits were being taken toward Isengard. This was the last news to reach the east. Then, the Rohirrim annihilated the combined orc forces at the Battle of Fangorn, charging again and again, and ultimately ending in a single combat between Eomer, third Marshal of Rohan, and Ugluk. Concerns spread through the High Command. Sauron himself feared that the One Ring was with the hobbits and that Saruman would seize it. Matters worsened when, days later, a messenger sent to Orthanc returned to report the ruin of Saruman. Now, Sauron feared the ring was in the hands of the Rohirrim. His anxiety reached a crescendo when Aragorn revealed himself, convincing Sauron that the ring was in the hands of Gondor's heir. This mounting chain of fears created an existential threat in Sauron's mind. He felt compelled to accelerate his assault, abandoning careful planning in favor of urgent action. Thus, the small skirmish near Fangorn became a decisive inflection point in the war. At first, the plan may have been rushed, politically, strategically, and logistically. But by the time the armies of Mordor were set in motion, a great deal had already been achieved. And in the early stages, it worked. At Osgiliath, Sauron managed to bring overwhelming numbers to bear. Despite a solid Gondorian defense, the sheer mass of his forces broke through, swept across the river, and seized the city. At CAIR Andros, an independent host advanced just as swiftly, crushing the garrison, taking the island, and spilling into Anorion to outflank Minas Tirith. Up to this point, the plan held. Mordor's momentum was undeniable. But the haste at the strategic and political level, the pressure to advance too quickly, with too many factions and too little coordination, would soon carry heavy tactical consequences on the Pelennor fields. Because once the host deployed before Minas Tirith, something deeper became impossible to ignore. A problem rarely named, yet decisive on any battlefield. Esprit de corps. This French term refers to the unity, loyalty, and shared pride that bind soldiers within a single force. The sense of belonging to the same body and striving toward the same goal. Tolkien never spells it out as a historian might, but you can feel it, lurking between the lines. His narrative shows it. Mordor's armies moved without the unity that turns men into a true fighting force. On the Pelennor fields, it becomes painfully clear. Each contingent acts almost independently, often pursuing conflicting priorities. As a result, the Easterlings and Variags remain reactive, contributing little to the battle at first, and ultimately being reduced to an improvised reserve. The Haradrim cavalry operates only around their own infantry, leaving the orcs exposed. The Mumakil, intended as Mordor's anti-cavalry hammer, only intervene when the Rohirrim reach the Haradrim positions near the river, giving the Rohirrim free rein to crush orcs, burn camps, and destroy siege engines. In short, Mordor's forces do not act as a single, unified army. Each component fights on its own terms, undermining the effectiveness of the whole host. Sauron had built an army designed for open-field combat, which he then adapted into a siege force. This transformation was largely successful, until the arrival of the Rohirrim, which threw everything back into an open-field battle. At that moment, Sauron's coalition could no longer respond effectively. This fragmentation of forces prevents Sauron from capitalizing on his numerical advantage, which could have allowed him to dictate the width of the front through his deployment, or even impose an oblique order. In the final episode of this series, we will examine real historical conflicts to explore three key concepts: command, the use of reserves, and tactical deployment. We will analyze which battle formations the armies of Mordor could have employed to maximize their strengths while minimizing their weaknesses, which is, ultimately, the very purpose of tactical deployment. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.